Hello everyone, it's me, Bryson P, and welcome to another video. I'm glad to be back, and I apologize for it being a couple weeks since I've last made a video. Um, you know, life happens between work and just needing a break and needing to catch up on sleep and just different things going on in my personal life. I really needed to take a little bit of a break, and unfortunately, it lasted longer than I anticipated. However, I am back and ready to make some more videos, ready to react to more and learn more. I do have some good news though. I am going to actually take vacation in July. It will be like the third week of July, I believe. And I'm taking a whole week off of work to go visit my brother in Colorado. Uh, I say that with kind of a double-edged sword because if you've seen my other videos, you know that I don't really get a lot of vacation time, and our vacation or holiday, as you call it, is not anywhere close to the way you guys have it. So I asked my boss the other day how many vacation hours I had, or how many vacation days I had. He looked it up and said that I currently have 8 hours, which is one day of vacation. So I asked him, okay, cool, well, can I take that one day plus four more unpaid so that way I can get a week's vacation and go see my brother in Colorado? And he said, yeah, that's no problem as long as nobody has that already requested off, which nobody did, so I got that off. But yeah, so cool. In July, I'm going to take a week off of work for one day vacation and 4 days no pay. And then starting on January 1st, I will have 5 days of actual paid vacation. So I say that also to say that things during this break that I've had from you guys have changed a little bit to where it is beyond more than possible, and I'm telling you now, I'm going overseas next year, and I don't know where, but possibly Sweden. I don't know. Um, I don't know. But I would also, I'm going to start learning more and really diving deeper into each kind of country and learning more about it, and especially learning about what to know before traveling and different things. And as I continue this journey and get closer to time to really start making travel plans, um, then I guess I'll have to make a decision, right? And hopefully, through the comments to you guys and everything else, we will be able to make a pretty good decision on the first place and first places and whatnot for me to visit. Yay! All right. So, anyways, today's video is going to be more or less focused on the United States because I don't want it to all be just about abroad because there's so many things that I don't know about the United States, and I've said that many times. So I'm also going to give my own reaction to how it is as me being an American and my own reaction to the things that happen here in the United States, because what happens here versus here is so drastically different. So anyways, today's video is going to be about the 10 reasons why you should never move to the United States. And we're just going to jump straight into it. Thank you for listening to me talk until we got to the video. Here we go.
USA! USA! USA!
We're number 28 and dropping. A nonprofit called the Social Progress Index recently came out with another ranking on world progress. And guess what? 3 countries actually dropped when it came to overall progression: Hungary, Brazil, and us. And the other 2 dropped less than we did, which means we're doing worse over the last decade than every other country in the world, people. Does that surprise though? Maybe not when you look around and see the challenges we have in our country today. Our kids are struggling, our adults are overweight and drugged out, there's a political divide we haven't seen in a long time, and meanwhile, we're distracted by our phones and reality TV. The data points to an alarming picture of the state.
Also, this video was made in 2020. This is 2021 when I'm making it, so there's going to be maybe a little bit of changes, but also in the future as you're watching this, understand that this is, made prior. So it'd be interesting also to come back to this, 5-10 years later and see also the differences.
State of our nation, said one really smart person. It's like we're a developing country, and that is just sad. Despite our enormous wealth, military power, and cultural influence, we're coming up in last place. We're like the entitled rich kid who keeps failing in class. Today, we're going to look at the world rankings and talk about things that we do right, but spend most of our time talking about the things that we do wrong, because we have some issues big time in America.
Okay.
But that's no surprise. Right? So before we get into the metrics to talk about how depressing things are here, we should go over the final results. Of all big developed nations, Norway came out on top, followed by Denmark.
Of course it did. Number one's Norway, Denmark, Finland, then New Zealand. Of course, I like New Zealand. I've never had a problem with you guys. Sweden, Switzerland, Canada, Australia, Iceland, Netherlands, Germany. So pretty much everything that I'm learning now is in relation to you guys and why where I'm learning is really kind of the best places, and why you guys have a lot of the comments that you have in relation to, I mean, come on, you guys are the top 10, 12, 13, and I'm over here in the 28. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Finland, and New Zealand, many African nations came out on the bottom. We ranked 28th after having slipped from 11th a decade ago.
Where's
We
North
now
Korea?
rank behind significantly poorer countries like Estonia, Cyprus, Greece, and the Czech Republic. But we dropped more than anyone else. If this were to continue, the U.S. would be on par with those African nations one day. Now, this isn't going to be very fun, but let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get started with this stuff.
Okay.
On breakfast, Jack, and hurry.
Jack, Jack in the Box. We're really cooking now.
One big reason for our poor showing in our world rankings is our health and nutrition. As a nation, we lead the world in medical technology, but we're 97th in access to healthcare. We have health statistics similar to people in Chile, Albania, and Jordan.
But
If
we've
you
already
compare
talked
the
about
US
that.
to the world's 11th richest nations, the U.S. spends far more on healthcare, but the outcomes are last. That means access to healthcare, efficiency of our medical system, and equity across different income groups is terrible.
You got that right, and I'm going to have to agree there, because if you've not seen my other video about healthcare and how healthcare is, I believe I'm going to have a link above so that way you could click on it. But yeah, we've already been over this. Like I said, and if you haven't, check it out. I've got a video on this and how I feel about the healthcare and how much things cost and how expensive an inhaler is for me, and how much it was whenever I broke my leg. And that's even with having like one of the best prime brokerages for health insurance. So,
The Affordable Care Act in 2010 was supposed to provide relief in terms of cost and access, but sadly, it's been statistically proven that countries with nationalized medical systems outperform us on all healthcare measures. Plus, a lot of us are overweight, but we know that already. We rank 11th in the world in terms of obesity rates and first among all developed nations, unless you count Kuwait. When you look at mental health, we're winners again. And by that, I mean,
so when you look at 11th among the world, that's not that bad. But then when you go first among the developed nations, that's not that great, right? That's completely... So basically, you're, at the end of that spectrum. I don't know why I stopped it to try and even go further into that.
losers. The World Health Organization says we have the third highest depression rates in the world after China and India. The share of Americans who report that
Yeah, I deal with that a lot. That's also part of why I had to take a break. Just not necessarily that I didn't want to make videos. I mean, have been every day, come home and get set up. I mean, I'll have my sorry, but like you see, I've got a nice new light. I went and got that and got things set up, and I've I was put at the same time between work and other things that I have going on. I just want to come home and go to bed sometimes, and I'll get home at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and be asleep by 6:37, and then wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, be awake, for a couple hours, go back to bed at 4:35, and then sleep till 6:30 until it's time for me to get up and get ready for work and be at work at 7. Just man. But anyways, that's it's far and few between. We're good. All right.
that every day is a bad mental health day has doubled over the last 25 years.
Nah.
Rising distress and despair are a largely American phenomenon, not observed in other advanced countries. And since the pandemic, our depression rates have tripled. In terms of suicide rates, the US isn't crazy high. We rank 34th in the world for suicide rates per capita, but it's going up fast, pal. Our nation's suicide rates are up 30% since the year 2000 and up 50% among girls and women. And you can bet social media has a lot to do with that.
Dang. 50% among girls and women. Let me tell you a quick story. I keep pausing this, but it's been a while since I made a video, and I have a lot that I want to share with you guys. But when I was, I think, 16 or 17, I believe I was 17. Anyways, I had a friend, and he was a couple years older than me. He had moved to another state, about an 8-hour drive, maybe less than that, but it was definitely over 5. So he had called me. He had a lot of issues as well. Long story. Anyway, so he had called me one day, and I was still in high school. You know, plus also I worked at Sonic Drive-In, making minimum wage. We talked about that. He had called me and wanted me to come pick him up. So I told him that this was on a Wednesday. I remember that for a fact. But he called me, asked me to come pick him up, and I told him that I just wasn't going to be able to because, you know, I mean, I'm at school. I have work after school, but I was off that Saturday, so I can come on Saturday and pick you up. Anyways, so that was on a Wednesday, and then Wednesday night, well, it'd actually be technically Thursday morning, 2 a.m., the police were next door because he had lived directly next door to me, and the police were next door talking to his parents. He had committed suicide and hung himself in a tree in his front yard where he was living at. And for a while, I felt kind of guilty about that because I felt like he reached out to me to come pick him up, and I didn't go do that. And so, therefore, I was responsible. But you can't let that way. I mean, because it's not, you know, it's not at all. You know, I don't feel like that at all. I mean, I feel bad for him, and I wish that, you know, I could have helped him. But at the same time, you know, he was already at that point that there's not much more I could have really done. I could have went and picked him up and brought him back here, but at the same time, would that have really changed the outcome? It probably wouldn't have changed the ultimate outcome. It might have just prolonged it. You see what I'm saying? Because at that point, he was already mentally there, and knowing him and knowing his potential future as being a close friend of his, that road would have already, that road was going to end sooner than naturally. It just might have only been, you know, longer, or it could have been sooner as far as whenever he got back here. You know, it could, who knows? And you dwell on that, and you can't dwell on that. You know, like I said, you know, I mean, from being in a really bad bus wreck and having, you know, at the time, my best friend's little brother get killed from the bus wreck, and, you know, me finding, you know, and seeing that at 4th grade when I was like 9. Yeah, I was 9 years old when that happened, and the bus rolled over multiple times, and that's another story for another video. I've been talking a lot, but anyways, yeah, you can't let that dwell, man. You gotta learn how to push through life, and it's hard. You learn how to deal with it, and you struggle with it, and I owe a lot of that also to my own personal beliefs and my own personal struggles, and especially being incarcerated, because that was I had no choice but to mentally make it, because it was either I mentally make it or I mentally lose it. And so going from incarcerated and going through a lot of my experiences, you know, it's made me more confident in my beliefs as far as what I can and can't achieve. So, yeah.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
We're a country of stimulants, we are. Drug, alcohol, and prescription medication use is climbing. We've been in an endless war on drugs, but as a country, we consume more than 5% of all illegal drugs in the world, just our country alone. And drug use is up in this nation by more than 8% over the last 20 years. An estimated 1 in 10 kids in the USA lives with a parent who has an alcohol problem. Alcohol use is only up a teeny bit, so at least there's that. And the good news is that with teens, it's down a lot. Kids these days don't drink and smoke and experiment like they did when we were kids. Yay, kids. But prescription drug use is up since 2000. Overdose numbers are skyrocketing, especially when you look at synthetic drugs. And total yearly deaths from all of this has more than doubled in the last 20 years.
McGruff here. See that guy? He's stealing at Pike. Now, see that lady? She's calling the cops. Mimi Marth, part of the Eyes and Ears Patrol in Hartford, Connecticut. Take a bite out of crime.
Now, what about crime? Well, when you measure violent and property crime, we're about middle of the road, but a majority of countries have a lower homicide rate than we do. But crime and safety has been a real concern in 2020, as large cities have been overrun with a spike in shootings and vandalism. Shrinking police budgets have only made the problem worse. We lead the world in percentage of people locked up, and we spend by far the most on keeping people behind bars. More than 2 million Americans are in prison alone, and that's not even in jails. So basically the entire population of New Mexico is in prison.
Yeah, and you guys know how I feel about jail also. If you've not seen my videos on jail or anything like that, I'll put a link up here to one of them. I'm not sure which one yet, but yeah, crime rates are crazy in America. I mean, I know there's other countries that have really bad crime as well, but yeah, I know for a fact, according to like statistic data and all that, when you look at per capita and everything else, where I live and where I used to live, because I don't live there now, but where I grew up and lived for the entire, like for 18, 19, 20 years of my life, where I grew up at, born and raised and committed my own crimes that I've been arrested for, that is the it's ranked as the third worst city in the whole entire state for crime, murder, and all that per capita, as far as, like robberies, crimes, theft, all that good stuff. Violent crime, it's the third worst city in the entire state. So that's where I was born at, raised at, pretty much my whole entire life, all the way up until, graduated high school and moved out on my own, and whatnot as far as out of there. But now I still live near there, and I still live pretty much in that same area. So it's really no different. I live in pretty much one of the worst. Like I said, we've got 23 active gangs just in the city alone that I live in. So, take it for what you will, right? Not everywhere's like that, but I mean, my gosh, I live in a small place compared to a lot of these major cities. But you got to know where to go, where not to go.
At least, comparatively. Of course, we have a ton of jerks who do deserve to be in jail, but are we doing something wrong? A lot of other countries are educating, counseling, and treating our criminals' addictions and helping them transition into the job sector. Not us.
Our nation's crime has dropped a lot over the last 30 years.
That's right, and so is crime around the world. Why is that, Mappy?
One study says because the world's population is getting older.
Huh, well that makes sense, Mappy. You get an A. Older people are less likely to commit crimes, at least for the most part.